Hello, everybody. John Farrell here, the thinking part of sports, the coaches edition. This is a pretty exciting one. I've been doing a bit of work on this coaching philosophy. I've talked about this week, and I've been really looking forward to this podcast. I think we're on. Yes, okay. So we're online. We're streaming, and I've also set this up on YouTube. So there'll be a link down below. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on here as well on LinkedIn. So, coaching philosophy. What is a coaching philosophy? So, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the mindset, a lot of the things that we do anyway. We just don't think about them. So, one of my mentors, Peter Sage, says the person is not their behavior. It's what's happening behind the behavior, before that behavior happens. And as coaches, as anybody in life, as coaches, actually recognizing that if I take control of the way I behave, then I can have more impact. And ultimately, this is what this is all about. The three pillars of sports, the physical, the technical, are going to get you there, but the mindset needs to catch up as well. And as a coach, we can teach all three. Really important, the physical, the technical side of it. And that's okay when it's all going well. But what when there's a problem, when there's a lack of confidence, there's a loss of confidence, there's an injury, there's that self-belief that's there. Roger Bannister ran the first sub 4 minute mile. And up until then, they were proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was impossible. They just forgot to tell him. He changed his mindset. He didn't change his mindset. He never had the mindset of that being a block, that big hurdle of 4 minutes, a sub 4 minute mile. So he went out and he trained for it and he achieved it. The first one. Within a year, a couple of other people had done it. Within 5 years, it was normal. And I think John Walker from New Zealand's did 100 sub 4 minute miles. But up until Roger Bannister took a different mindset, nobody was going to achieve it. It's the same thing with the 2 hour mile. It's physically impossible to do it, except when I can't remember who it was. One of the African runners did a sub 2 hour marathon. So that's the athlete, but the coach is the one that's really there, being the coach, the mentor, the friend, the antagonist, if you like, the one that's holding them accountable, the one that's pushing them, recognizing that there's that mental block, that they can't do a sub 4 minute mile, and that's where the coach steps up. That's where the effective coaches get that success in their athletes, and that really comes within themselves. The coach. What are as a coach, what are your blocks? What are your limiting beliefs? So what we're going to talk about today was having a coaching philosophy. Now, well, we don't necessarily sit down and most people don't sit down and have philosophies for life, but they do run their lives and they run them unconsciously. They behave. They don't contemplate. They don't put a process in place. And that's that first step in coaching, that first step in life and in a career, in any sort of job, in a relationship, any sort of relationship, whether it's with the partner, the athlete, or the management, or just the new job. What am I actually going to put in place? I was working with a client recently in India, and they got the new job, and they were going for the interview. Sorry, they got the job, they had the interview, they'd got the job, and they were going in that first day. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So we worked on who she needed to be to step into that job. First morning, 8 a.m. in the morning, walk into the office. Who did she need to be? So we actually set that in place. Now, normally people they walk into a job and they are who they are. And if it's going right, if they're feeling confident and they're up for it, cool. If they're like, I'm not quite sure about this, and they're a little bit nervous, then that's what shows up. That's that first impression. So with her, we worked on her being her most powerful self, stepping into who she needed to be. So that's setting up a philosophy for her first day. Now, we've done further work on her philosophy for life and her job. But in this case, we're talking about sports coaches and a sporting philosophy. So who are you as a coach when you turn up? And the coaching philosophy there is, it's about your values, your beliefs, your your principles. Essentially, it's your identity. What do you value? What do you value in life? What do you believe? What are your principles? What do you stand by? What are your non-negotiables, we say? You know, health is a non-negotiable. If you don't look after your health today, it'll catch up with you eventually. Money, if you don't look after your money, eventually you're going to run out of it. So there's sort of non-negotiables. Now, most of us just go through life. We don't have a philosophy, but in this case, you know, if you want to step up and be successful, if you want to be effective with your athletes, it's having a philosophy. Then because they're your beliefs and values, your principles, this isn't just, you know, the career, the job, that the athletes. This is really, who are you as a person, your identity. And your beliefs and values, they shape the way that you think and you feel. And the thinking and the feeling are the things that come before we behave. Now, when I meet somebody, I'm only seeing their behavior. That line that I said before, that sageism, we call them. It's a quote: the person is not their behavior. What's going on with their thinking and how are they feeling before they behave? So looking at our values, our beliefs, our principles, we're looking at our identity. We're assessing why we do what we do effectively, how we think, how we feel, then how we behave. So why we do what we do. It's the why before the doing. And when we understand, so this is this first part of the coaching philosophy, developing the coaching philosophy. It's assessing, looking at our beliefs and values, looking at our principles, and understanding them, because they, as I've said, they form the way we think, the way we feel. They influence the way that we perceive life. I was in a rugby club a few months ago. I was amazed. Rugby's a contact sport. And across the club room, they've got, "I live in a friendly universe." Famous quote. But I live in a friendly universe. Their perception of the world was, yes, I'm in a contact sport, but I live in a friendly universe. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Great line. But how you see the world, what you believe, what you value, and where your principles are how you perceive the world. And we're all going to have very different worldviews. And this all comes together. You know, our worldview, our perceptions, our values, our beliefs, our principles are who we turn up as a person. So who we turn up in front of our partner, in front of the board of directors, in front of our athletes, that's something that most people don't sort through, don't work out. They just do. Some people it's successful. Most people, you know, get by, and they have their ups and downs, and a few people don't really make it. So today we're looking at the perception, our perceptions, our philosophy. So why do we develop it? Well, if we understand our principles, we get a better understanding of our coaching principles, who we are as a coach. How far am I willing to push? You know, really important with athletes or a partner, say, recognizing that if I push that button, it'll be okay. If I push that button, I'm going to motivate. I'm going to have a more positive part of this relationship. But if I push that button, I'm going to get my head chopped off. So recognizing how to motivate people. But I can recognize how to motivate them, but take it a step back. How am I motivating myself? You know, a lot of this stuff that we do to other people, it's great, much more effective when we understand it ourselves. This is all about the coaches edition. This isn't about the athletes, it's about coaches getting themselves in the right place. So having a coaching philosophy. So what are my practices? Recognizing my values and beliefs influence who I am, my practice as a coach. But it gives me that opportunity to observe them, to start to notice what my beliefs and values are. Beliefs and values, you know, I can value money, for instance. And is that because I value the money or what it will buy me? Or is it really what I don't have? So many of us put money on the top of the list, wealth on the top of the list. But when you dig down into that value, sorry, dig down at that value. It's actually a value of scarcity. I want to have the wealth because I don't want to be like that. I want to have the house because I don't want to live in the street. It's scarcity mentality. So it's a great exploration of beliefs and values to understand our coaching principles, practice, but it helps us to align, to recognize the values, the beliefs that help me, the principles that help me, and the ones that don't, and they're the ones that I need to look at, maybe moving on from. I think one of the most important things this does is it provides consistency. So when I know who I am as a coach and the people around me, when I know who I am as a person, the people around me, they understand what's going on. They recognize who I am. So I'm being consistent. Really important thing to do, to be consistent. This helps me assessing values and beliefs, helps me with understanding my consistency, because consistency isn't something that you do, it's the behavior, but the consistency is something that you do the same behavior. People get used to you. Our energy goes where our focus goes. When we understand our beliefs and values, when we understand who we are as a coach, we understand our practices, they're consistent. We get more focused, we maintain our concentration. You know, as a coach, if an athlete walks onto the field and they've had an argument at home the day before, then they're not taking all their concentration onto the field. As a coach, being able to recognize, put your stuff aside, we say park it, but to put it to one side, so when you're interacting with the person, with the board of directors, you're focused in that moment on what's going on. You're not thinking about, did I turn the gas off at home this morning? You're focused, your attention is there. You're not worrying about the actual behaviors, the actual practice you're doing. You can focus more on, in the moment, this athlete, what they need to motivate them. Individuals all need different motivations. So recognizing this didn't work last time with that person, this is what I need to do. So change strategies. So being able to concentrate on focus and the job in hand. Really important skill, that one. And I said consistency. It's staying true to your style. 90% of our communication is non-verbal. So many people pick up on the other stuff that's going on around us. It's not just what we say, it's the other stuff. So this is the being consistent, understanding who we are as a person, that our style as a coach, and put us in really good position. And we do this anyway, but a coaching philosophy is sitting down and thinking this out. Okay, what do I believe? What do I believe about sports? What do I believe about life? What do I value in life? And what are my underlying principles? It doesn't have to be a 8-hour exercise, but getting something down, understanding who you are, and putting it together into a philosophy what make you much more consistent, can not dictate, but can give you a much more solid style. People recognize who you are. You're being consistent. They understand what's expected of them. It's so the philosophy is really important because it impacts on how you do it impacts on your coaching practice. I wanted to say I was just going to touch on them. The consistency. It's really important in your communication. It's that consistency, that relationship that you have, the relationship with anybody, coming across as the person as the coach you need to be. So the communication's there. It helps with your communication. I've said it guides your practice. You stay true to who you are, your principles, your coaching philosophy. Now, what I wanted to just touch on was how to develop this. So important, the beliefs and the values that we hold. They influence how we see the world. They influence our practice. So how do we get them? How do you recognize your beliefs and your values? It's not so easy to sit down and you can do an exercise. What do I believe and what do I value? It's a little bit intellectual. thinking about your experiences is a really powerful way to understand what you value. So, and it's really thinking through the process. So we won that championship, and that was great. Why was it great? It's the why question. Simon Sinek theory. Understand your why. Why was it great? So yeah, so it elevated you up, it put you in a better position. Why about that? Really good idea to ask that why question a couple of times to really dig down into why that was a great achievement that you had. Why, and likewise, you got to look at the negative ones as well. This shows our beliefs and values. Why that wasn't a good interaction. So if we're talking to somebody and the interaction goes south, it doesn't go too well. Why did it not go too well? What was I doing? What was I feeling in saying? So it's the feelings. Beliefs and values are tied up in how we feel and how we think. So that interaction didn't go well. What was I feeling? How did I behave? So it's assessing experiences. Now, it's not just on the field with the athletes in the coaching capacity, because this is a philosophy for life, if you like. Honed down, sort of or reframed into the sport. So it's all the experiences, experience with the board, the experience with partners socially, but also with the athletes. So reflect on those experiences, not just in the coaching capacity. This is going to help you identify these core beliefs and values. And it's important to do the goals, the beliefs and values first, to then go into the goals. What do you really want to achieve in this career? So goals are a funny thing. Goals have been around since the early 20th century. They're not new. There's lots of frameworks to do it, but I think the best quote I can come up with is one of my mentors, Peter Sage. He says, "It's not the goal, it's the person you become along the journey. It's not the outcome, it's not the goal, it's who you become along the journey to get there." The problem with goals are quite often the goalposts get moved. So we aim for this goal and we get there and then it's moved on. Or, I don't know if it's worse, but we get the goal, we get promoted to the premiership and we realize it's another step up in work. And then we start to question our abilities there. So when we achieve the goal, is it really what I wanted? So goal setting is something it's not quite as simple as it sounds. I have one of my coaches is I work with Monday morning, 15 minutes each, and this is what I'm doing this week. So we set step goals for the week. So it's almost like a to-do list, but not quite, because the idea with that coach that I talk to Monday morning is he's holding me accountable. So it's, you said you do this and this and this last week. So what have you done? What didn't you do? Why didn't you do it? Holding me accountable. So what am I doing this week? So goals can be those stepping stones that we're held accountable to. And then we'll have mid-range goals and long-term goals as well, recognizing that it's not the achievement, it's who you become along the way. Beliefs and values, principles first, and then understanding our goals in our career. And from that, understanding what your goals are, you can start to assess who you are as a coach, your style of coaching. And there's lots of different types of people that you can be. And it's not with the coaching philosophy, it's not the technical, the physical coaching style that we're looking at here. It's who you are as a person. So are you directive or non-directive coach, for instance? There's this search to learn about actually the relationship, the way that we communicate. 30% or so of us are visual. We need to see pictures. A lot of us are auditory. We need to hear it a couple of times. Some of us are kinesthetic. We need to feel. We need to understand the feeling. So when I score that goal, how does it make me feel? Now that's a great motivator. So describing movements on the field, the pictures, the images, the movies, the videos of it. But then also talking through it. So what's your style as a coach? Recognizing that as a coach, you're communicating with these different styles and the people around you. And if you're talking to your partner or the board of directors, it's the same thing. They will expect different things. Visual representation, auditory, describing the details. Some of them will need to know what if they do it? What are they going to get out of it? And then some of them are going to want to know what if they don't do it. So these are all things that come into the style, the type of person that you are as a coach in your coaching style, and the sort of person you are in life, style. And of course, most importantly is once you've done all this, you've taken the notes, you've thought about this, and this is mostly something in process in your head, but writing it down. Writing that philosophy down on a piece of paper, really important. The quality of what we do changes when we put it out into hard copy, when we write it down, not on the computer, when we write it out. We put that stuff down, we write it, because, we write stuff down, it changes. You change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You write down your beliefs and values. The things that will come up, of course, are the ones that, that's not really helping me. Now you have to be honest with yourself. And this is probably one of the challenging parts of this. When I'm working with someone setting goals, we'll get them to write out the first 5. So what are your goals for the next year? Right, okay, so write out the first 5. Okay, now let's take that piece of paper, screw it up and put it in the rubbish bin, because they're really the goals that other people expect of you. Our partners, our children, our parents, our board of directors, our athletes, they're other people's goals, and they're not really motivators. They're extrinsic motivators. They're goals that we think other people expect us to reach. They're not the real drivers here. So when you're doing this process of looking at the beliefs and values, your principles, when you're looking at your goals, you have to be honest with yourself, hold yourself accountable. I should talk about peer groups at one stage. It's really important to have a buddy, if you like, somebody that you can talk to at this level, somebody that can hold you accountable to it. Because when you write it down, you've got to be honest with yourself. Getting it out of your head onto a piece of paper makes it much more powerful. Makes it much more, because the idea is that you have maybe a list of 10 things. As a coach that's going to the Premiership, as a coach that's going to win the championship, these are the things I need to turn up as, and then when you get out of bed, that's the first thing you see. Quite often it's on the back of the bedroom door or the fridge door. Before you open the fridge, you see those 10 things. It just prompts it every day. What you're trying to do here is you're trying to establish you're trying to empower your psyche, the way that you process, you're empowering it. And so you're creating that empowering habit, and this is something you need to do on a regular basis. So hence the fridge door. So who are you as a coach? I believe this, I value this is one of my principles. I don't know, so let's write out 10 things on that piece of paper, and that's what goes on the fridge. So every day, this is what you see. You're setting yourself up for when you get to the office, when you get to the sports ground, you're already in that mindset. See, what happens is most people, something happens and they react to the outside stimulus. They think about what's happened outside and they react to that. They behave according to that, based on the values and beliefs, the things that they hold true, without them having thought about them. You have this list on the front of the fridge that's here. You quick read through it. 10 seconds, not very long. Go into the office, you meet a situation, it gives you information. You're not triggered by it, you're not annoyed by it. It gives you information. You're unconscious, your mind has already got these understandings of who you are, your beliefs and values, and that's how you behave. If you're not in control of your emotions, if you're not in control, if you haven't mastered your relationships, then you're going to be all over the place. So what I'd say is that an event happens, it either informs you or triggers you. If you know who you are as a coach, a situation comes up, it informs you and you react according to who you are as a coach. If it triggers you, you're going to react to it as as a coach, but you're going to react to it. So at that outside that extrinsic stimuli, and that's going to lead you down the garden path. It's going to create an image of who you are as a coach, but it's not going to be in your control. It's going to be your emotions overriding, your relationships you have in life. The most important thing we can have in life, that we have in life, is the relationships with other people and ourselves. So it's really, when you get to the office, when you get to the sports ground, who you turn up as. 90% of our communication is non-verbal. So much is communicated without us even realizing it. If you're, one of the big parts of coaching is mentoring, and that can be done without even speaking directly to the person. You have a situation with one person, somebody else sees that, they're taking the information on. So it's really important to understand that you're impacting everybody around you. If you're talking to a team, you want to get the right culture in place. It's really hard to dictate a culture. Culture is great to look back on and say, oh, we did that right and it did this, or we did that wrong. And as a coach, you have the biggest control of the team culture. So again, who you turn up will impact most heavily on that culture of the team. And culture is not something you can sit down and write out the culture, but it's also, the culture is, again, who you are as a person. I was really impressed, and I've seen it numerous times with different sports, but at the World Cup, when the Japanese play and they finished, the Japanese crowd go around and they clean the stadium up. That's who they are. The skipper of one of the top race boats, sailing boats that sailed around the world, they won 6 out of the 7 legs, I think, and the round the world race, Steinlager, many years ago, many decades ago. And he started off the skipper, really good skipper, never went to the Olympics, seriously good sailor, but never quite at that pinnacle. But what he had was man management, really effective. And he would never leave a place in a worse condition than when he arrived. And the first time I saw him many years ago, they were in Southampton, and they're going up around the world race takes 9 months. It's not a short race. So the day before the start, you've got 9 boats, and even the Russians had a team at that stage, 9 boats on the dock, and there's mayhem. There's people getting the supplies on board. There's sails being checked. It's sort of chaos. If you know anything about sailing, it's most of the time it's chaos. It's all everyone getting more and more busy up to the last minute. There's people running around. There's documents have to be signed. There's passports. I mean, they have a management team behind these boats when they're sailing around the world. And there was Steinlager in the middle of it, 8 o'clock in the morning, nothing. There was nobody around it. It was just a quiet boat sitting in the marina. That's the way he ran the boat. That was his style. And that's what he took from the shore before the race, how they trained, how they worked up, and that's how he ran his team in the race. And they won every leg. Okay, so some of it was technical, the boat, but it was quite standout what he had as a team culture. Now, he imposed that on. So this coaching philosophy that we're talking about is so important for deciding, giving you an understanding of how you're going to create that team culture. Really important in a team, whether it's a team game like football, cricket, rugby, or whether it's an athletics group, you can still create a team sense, a team culture within a group of individuals. And that's probably the hardest thing and the most important thing to do in a team game, whether it's rugby, football, NFL, whatever the sport is, creating that team culture. So understanding who you are as a coach and delivering that is going to impact on the culture. So really important. So yes, so I've talked there about the priorities, why the benefits of the philosophy. And I think I haven't talked about trust there. Communication is so important with everybody in life, including yourself. With athletes, with the board, that communication, getting it right, being consistent with who you are builds trust. And for the athlete, so for Roger Bannister to have that belief that that was an artificial break, a sub 4 minute mile, it's got to be trust between him and the coaches, the people that are guiding his training, his philosophy. So this helps build that trust. And it's not something you're doing to the other person first. It's not the behavior. Remember, the behavior is what we see. It's who you are as a person that puts that trust out there. And most of the trust is non-verbal communication. So it really helps with the trust. And it's being consistent, understanding who you are as a person, understanding your beliefs, values, your principles, who you turn up as. It's being consistent, understanding the emotions when they come up. So why has that emotion come up? What belief or value is that event triggering that emotion, causing that behavior? Recognizing that emotion coming up means that you can become more consistent, building the trust, building the communication. And ultimately, it's having that quality of relationships. And in any sport, and it's why I like working so much in sports, you have these key moments. You know, if you're in a team that plays every Saturday, it's a key moment every Saturday. So you have 90 minutes or 80 minutes on the field, and that's where everything has to be aligned. The rest of the week is building to that point. So it's all compressed into that little time span, and you can't have the focus going off. You know, you can't be in the changing room at half time giving 10 different points. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they pick out maybe maximum 3. 3 is quite a lot. 2 points are getting across in the changing room. Maybe 3. Just making sure that it's simple, the communication's there, it's got across. The player isn't distracted off by something else. It's just 3 points. You talk too much, you tell too many stories, you give them 5 points there. That's where the distractions are coming in that I'm talking about. So there's a lot here. This is just a little part of this whole mental skills, mental resilience. The coaches, because the coaches, for me, the coaches are the ones that deliver to the athletes. You've got to be in the right place to deliver, to get the athletes in the right place. You've got to be in the right place to deliver the culture. You've got to be in the right place in your mindset to deliver to the board of directors. So there's lots of things in here. I'm running up. Yes, that's the radio show, but over here, late June. It's actually going to be in July now. Later on, there'll actually be a 6-month training that I'm doing that is very much about building all these different skill sets in to help you develop your personal development, I suppose you'd call it. Understanding and mastering emotions, understanding and mastering your relationships, understanding goal settings as a coach to the level where it's more than just the goals. It's understanding who you become on the journey so that when you're in front of somebody, even if it's the board, you can help them build their goals. Understanding in those key moments who you are as a person, the archetypes that come out with us. And there's so much more. I mean, wealth and abundance. Is it about money, or is it actually about abundance in life? I remember years ago watching these kids playing in one of the little islands in the Bahamas, and they had nothing. Literally, the ball was a 50-cent Walmart ball, 50 cent, yeah, just a thin plastic ball. They're having a great time. They weren't worrying about the fact they didn't have money. We get tied up in life and money. So an important thing to understand is that we need money. It's non-negotiable, but not getting tied up in it. So understanding abundance. So it's a 6-month course, July later on this year. Look me up, contact me. We can have a chat about that. And I hope you've got something out of coaching philosophy. And I'll put the link down below. If you don't see this live, you can catch it on YouTube, along with all the other calls I do. Great to be talking to you. See you soon. Bye.